Thank you for joining us on our live stream, man. This is Real Talk, and I've got a very, very special guest in the house. I'm and a very busy one for taking time out with me today uh, because we've got a town hall meeting this evening, and he's going to talk a little bit about that, promote that out a little bit. And I'd like to introduce everyone to our city manager, Mr. Jerome Fletcher. How are you doing, sir?
I am doing great, John. Thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. I couple seconds delay. I was sharing it out to social media, so hopefully that's out there and things are happening. But we've talked about at different times the town hall meetings that we've had. Talk a little bit about this one and what makes it different from the past.
Well, I think what makes tonight different is we did a survey last year and we had a lot of good feedback from the community. And whether it was trust and transparency, infrastructure, the growth of the city, we're hearing a lot of good feedback on what mattered to our citizens. I think that first of all, we have to make sure that there's a foundation, which is the conversation of tonight, of what good governance looks like, how we communicate, how we're visibly accountable, and how decisions that reflect the community priorities are made. Now, one might say, well, let's make sure that the community priorities are in alignment with the commission priorities. And that's part of the conversation as well, because if there's a disconnect, then we're not going to get to the same place together. And we have different ways of doing that, of making sure that, we do the things I just stated, such as, making sure information is easy to find and understand, performance dashboards, social media, engagement opportunities. We do those kind of things so that we can make sure that people stay connected to the city's outcomes.
People have a different perception of governance, and they move here from different places. And so I'd kind of like to start out with a little bit maybe of your background from the past where you've been, but also incorporate that into how our current government operates.
Yeah, absolutely. So the form of government that you're in matters a lot. In my background, the majority of the forms of government I have been in are been commissioner manager forms of government, but I've also worked in DC as a strong mayor form of government where Muriel Bowser, was the one at the top of the pyramid, and she was an elected official. Working in that environment taught me that I didn't want to do that again, because I don't think that politics should be at the top of local government, because there's too many other interests that compete with that, and it gets sort of lost in doing the work and staying in an apolitical role, which is what I'm in now. So in the form of government that we have now, I am hired by the board in order to carry out the will of the board. I'm not an elected official. I have never, ever in my entire life worked on a political campaign in my entire life. And I'm always the public administrative voice of what we're trying to get done. So whether it's the commission manager form of government that we have, whether it's the strong mayor form of government that I was in, there's always different types of government that would allow you to be successful. But the one that I think that we have is the one that allows us to separate the politics from the administrative side of things, which is what I bring to the table.
Well, we started out with good governance. So the governance side of it for people who are new here, I grew up in a mayorship, and Columbus operates in that fashion. So you elect a mayor, and the mayor directs and does all those things. We're different here in that respect. So can you highlight that difference? Because there's a lot of people that think, oh, I can go talk to the mayor, and the mayor makes a decision and it's fine. And it's fine. And it's not.
Right. In our structure of commission manager form of government, the mayor does serve as the highest ranking commissioner at that time. And we do rotate our mayor every year throughout the body of the board. But the mayor still does carry a lot of weight. I would encourage people to reach out to the mayor and all commissioners from that standpoint, but
Absolutely.
Just to make sure that they are heard. And when they are heard, they come back to myself and my team, and we figure out, and normally we collaborate and problem solve together on what the issue is. And if it's something on the operational side of the house, I'm happy to do as much as I can to get it solved and resolved. We want our people here to be happy. And If it's not, then if it's a board or a policy issue, then we will take it up to the board and see what kind of direction we can get from there. But thinking that the mayor or any commissioner is going to solve problems is not a bad thing to do. It's just how we react to it once that information is given, that we try to make sure that we can satisfy as many needs as possible.
You know, we always get these talking points, and I shred them really quick for a lot of good reasons. But it's kind of nice because the talking points do give us some guidelines, just like the commission gives some insight to you, and then you feed that down to staff. So it kind of works hand in glove, doesn't it? In that regard.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
So you've got you've got a lot of things happening at the same time, and I want to talk about something that Rob in San Vicente said, because she said the website looks much better. But can you talk about the importance of the website, the branding, and also communications, because we have an exceptional communications team?
Oh, yes. I love our communications team. I think they're doing a great job. And, one of the things Jason Bartolone came in and did when he first got here was to revamp the website. We need to make it user friendly, but it needs to also contain information that people care about. And as we look to be held accountable, we look at the performance dashboards, and we look at how we communicate the pros and the cons, the good and the bad of things that we do. If we do something bad, we have to own it and try to fix it. If we do something good, we would hope that people would take that as a positive sign, as a community that they choose to be in. The branding of the city, the logo, has been a big conversation in the last couple of weeks and months. And, we decided on the logo, and we kept the slogan the same as it was. And I would always encourage the people who gave their opinion about the logo to please give that same energy to the budget, this upcoming, that is the most important document that we'll produce this year. We want their engagement. We want to open that door so our community can be a part of what we're doing. We can open the door, but we need the community to walk through it. But that sort of engagement with our with our comms team, with our branding and our logo, and how we reach you is important. So give us the feedback that we need to hear so that we can be better.
And you've got a lot of things happening at the same time right now. I was just down Price Boulevard, and I got to tell you, I'm super happy that it's back open. That waterway is going to be exceptional when we need it. But just to see the 4-lane extension like creeping into the project, was a cool thing to notice today, and I can appreciate the work that has gone into that. But that project, man, it was so needed in our city for years. Can you kind of highlight how you guys are managing that, and how that works within our fire department and our police department, because they're great at what they do too? And
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, I need to apologize to the people who are experiencing the disruption by that sort of progress in the city. We all are looking forward to it being open, like you said, and, the disruption that happened when it was closed for a little while. But there are people who are living right next door to that who see that progress as a pain point. And, there's only so much, that we can do to minimize that impact on their lives. So we first of all have to give acknowledgement to them and what they're going through as the progress of the city continues. But this project has been one of the legacy projects that have been on the board, so to speak, for a long time. And we're happy that we are getting it moved off the board, and we're moving forward in ways that hopefully won't cause any more disruption that we know of. The one that we are just referencing was an unintended and unknown interruption that happened, and we have to get through those the best way that we can. Our fire and police and getting them through that area has been very important, because we know that we still need to service that piece of our city, which is like in the middle of our city. But, at the end of the day, I think that the city will be better for it. When they look around and they see the construction and they see the development happening, we want them to look and say that these are positive things for the city as we go through them. And, even thinking of River Road, I've been here for 4.5 years. They've been working on River Road for 4.5 years. But once it's done, I think we'll all reap the benefits of it. But it's part of the life cycle that we're in right now. And we do ask for people's patience, but know that we do make decisions in the best interest of everyone as we move forward.
We've got some major projects and I'm going to kind of step off a little bit from governance, although it comes with this, because good governance is listening to the people. And I did notice with the hospital, there's some construction issues there. There's neighborhoods that back up against it, and the governing side of that, noise and construction. You guys are really trying your best to adapt every need there, aren't you?
We are, but if you think about it from their standpoint, there's never been a 9-story hospital built in this city before, and
No,
people, it is really something unique that you have to deal with. And for the people whose backyard right there are exposed to that, we have to be very empathetic to what they're going through.
I agree.
And based on the rules that we have and the procedures that we have, we do as much as possible, as often as possible, to make sure that disruption is as minimal as possible. But at the end of the day, that facility on that location is going to be awesome, but there are some pain points going through to get to that point. But the hospital is something that this city has desperately needed for many, many years. And here we are still growing nearly 100,000 people. We need to be able to get health care to those people in need as soon as possible and make sure that we don't have to travel up to Venice and Sarasota when we don't need to, because our residents have paid for a hospital and we deserve one here. And we're so thankful to our partners at SMH for providing it.
Well, it kind of goes twofold here, because we've got the next exit down. We've got FTC that's turning out LPNs and advancing their programs into an RN program, and different trades that are coming to our city, because our city is definitely growing and that infrastructure is there. And I like your answer, by the way, because while I like to be the pusher of we need, I'm listening. I get to listen to both sides too, and just like you guys do, and I find that the way that you guys have graciously tried to handle all those things, that it kind of resembles the governance side of things, because you're trying to educate people, you're trying to get their feedback, you're trying to adjust to what the needs are on every aspect. We do that with Warrenville Springs, we do that with the environment, we do that with hospital growth, we do that with Welland Park growth, we do that with the baseball, we do that with our parks and rec. We're doing that across the board. One of the things I want to kind of highlight to you is to talk about is the programs that we have that citizens can get involved in that would educate them further on the governance of our city, like the leadership program.
Oh yeah. So, well, first of all, we're very proud of Northport University. That is a spectacular program that our comms team has just developed, and there's online pieces of it as well that people can get involved in. And we want people to know and understand, back to your original point, the form of government, what we do, how we do it, and how to just be included in the conversation. It's everyone can't get out to a meeting. Everyone can't. They have so much time to give. We all have families and responsibilities. So it's interesting for you just to find a way for you to fit in, for your voice to be heard. And one thing that I was reading and thinking about, with the public comment that we have, public comment is great, but it works better when it's combined with some individual outreach to the commissioners to let them know in advance of that meeting night, hey, I want you to know my opinion before I get there. I think that that's where some of that effectiveness takes place, is the extra layer of communication, because our commissioners do want to hear, all 5 of them do want to hear from you. They want to know, what are you thinking? How does this affect you? Did we make a mistake? Where can we make things better? How can we improve our response time, our operational response times? There's a ton of things that I know that we could do better and we want to do better, but we encourage people to take advantage of the right communication or input vehicle that works best for their lives, which is why we have so many different options.
We talked briefly just a few minutes beforehand about our relationship and how we look at life through different viewpoints, because we grew up in different areas. We didn't know each other. Gosh, 4.5 years ago, we didn't know each other, and we've developed a relationship that I cherish. and I have done that with all the commissioners, all of them. I don't have a bad bone to pick with any of them, but each of them are different. And you said something that's key: go meet with people and go meet with them. I think that anytime that you do a project in this city, anytime that you have an idea or a thought process, you should build your coalition through your commissioners, and that means all of them, not just picking and choosing the voice that's out there, because governance, good governance, is built on a contingency of support, isn't it?
It is. There's never going to be a time where any one commissioner is on the winning side of every vote. It will never happen. So your ability to have a very authentic and diverse relationship with all commissioners is important, because they all see things differently. And, whether you get along with two of them or three of them or four of them or one of them or none of them, I think that I would say to all of them, they believe that they want to hear from you as a citizen, as a person. What do you think? Because we're not all subject matter experts at everything. And as well as I do, the wide range of decisions that they have to make on a weekly and biweekly basis is tremendous. And so they have to scrutinize projects and decisions and choices from many, many angles. So to hear different viewpoints that will either confirm or challenge what they're thinking, that's how we grow together. That's how the supporters become part of the solution and not part of just the noise in the background. We're focused on outcomes. We're data driven, and we want to make sure that we keep and retain the care that we have for each other as citizens and people on this planet in our thought processes.
It's got to be difficult at times where the decisions are being made for you. I think because you're the manager of momentum, so to speak. You've got the governing body above you, which is the board, and then you're the manager. You're the team captain. You're sort of like the baseball manager in the dugout, and you're putting players in and doing different things. How do you manage all of that? And I will say this because I brag about them all the time, and the great leadership that we have now underneath you, because that is fundamentally a great asset to our city, is having those players.
And I think you just hit on it. The goal is always to build a high performing team. If you build a team of experts who you trust in what they do and why they do it, then that's who you surround yourself with. You don't surround yourself with people who think like you do necessarily, but they need to be knowledgeable in whatever skill or discipline that they have a specialty in, and they need to share the same value system of how we treat people, how we want to care about our employees, have a great work-life balance, be visible and vocal in our community, foster growth, succession planning, all the things that, build a great organization. We pride ourselves on the fact that we care about our people who work for us and the people that we serve. And public service isn't for everyone. If you don't feel that way and you can't put something or someone up before yourself, it's never going to work. Your ego has to be put to the side. Your selfish intentions need to be put to the side. You have to care about something that's bigger than you. And we all care about the city, and we care about the outcomes, and we do the best for the most, which means that we're never going to please everybody. But hopefully we have provided enough rationale and discussion and description of why we made our decisions, which give people a better understanding of, well, they didn't do what I wanted, or I don't like what they did, but at least I know why they did what they did. That why is very important to give people, as opposed to just letting people think that we'll just do it because I said do it. That's not the right way to lead people.
Right. And, I talk about leadership a lot because it matters to me. I've kind of grown up in the sports arena of life, I guess, but I've had great, Phil Kegg was a huge asset to me through my middle school years. He was track and cross country. I still talk about him. Mr. Rader taught us basketball, so we have our teachers, our coaches. I still play softball up until, gosh, my mid 30s, all the way through those years with guys I went to high school with, and we coached each other and led each other. But I talk about that because my involvement with city staff and city leaders is the same. I have that direct link because I guess I make myself more available, more vulnerable to situations. But I would highly encourage everybody to step out of their comfort zone of their house and just tippy-toe through some politics a little bit here local, because local politics is different than the federal side of things. Can you tell the importance of our city, just the voting base, getting involved and really highlighting that makes Tallahassee look at Northport different and gives us a little more power. Can you talk about that?
So I think when you talk about, the local politics and what happens here, I think we are standing out now to the entire state in what we are doing and what we're doing well. And, that's from the economic development growth that's happening in our backyard, our 104 square miles of the city, the professional high performing team that you mentioned earlier, as we talk about how people look at us and, feel about the right people being in the right seats in the city. And, then you have the commissioners who have been, more than engaged in not only things that happen in the state, but the things that happen locally here. We have a very, very good structure that's going on right now. To your question to the public on them getting engaged in voting and what it means, you will always have more control at the local level than you will at the federal level of your government. You can look online, you can meet in person and see your local elected leaders and figure out where they are on stances, the things that matter directly to you. And then you can choose to support them or support in a different direction. But at the end of the day, we can all disagree on how to get to certain places, but we have to sort of agree on the outcomes. We want the quality of life to be well for our citizens here. We want to make sure they have good parks and places to play. We want them to be safe. We want our police and fire to be responsive in times that will do what they're supposed to do, which is save lives. We want our planning department, development services to be there to support our business community and make sure that they feel the attention and love that we want them to have and deserve. Our utilities want our water quality to be strong, and public works, we want our trash be managed properly. Our solid waste and everything that they do is important, and we want people to understand that when you look at our city, we want people to say that Northport is a very great place to live, work, and play. And that's what drives us every day as we try to be better than the day before.
And, I want to go back to a big word. And it's only 5 letters, but it's a massive word, and that's trust. When you couple that word, if you just took that one word and you applied it across the board in every department, including the financial side of things, how would you relate that back to the citizens of Northport? That one word back to them on the trust that they can have in the organization itself, the city.
I think that's a tricky question, but here's how I'm going to answer it. I think that trusting government right now as a whole, whether it's at the local, state, or federal level, is not very high. I believe that we government officials have put ourselves in positions to receive some due criticism based on some actions that has been done. What I don't want is for that trust on those other levels to erode the trust in their local government, that we have not proven those same actions that they're seeing elsewhere. Because if you have a broken moral compass, it doesn't matter which level of government that you're in, you still have a broken moral compass. So right. It's a shame to say it that way, but you do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. There's no hidden agenda there. And we want our citizens to trust us, but we can't just say it. We have to prove it in our actions. We have to make sure that when we go out for decision makings that they're included. When we talk about the money that we're saving, that we show it as opposed to tell it, which is a big focus of our budget this year. We have to go out and prove ourselves every single day to get the citizens of Northport to understand that we deserve the trust that they want to hold on to, but we think that we deserve. So we're not going to ever stop trying to earn that trust. And we hope that we keep getting closer and closer to having it each day.
So Chuck, good afternoon, Chuck. He said, good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're having a great transparency builds a great day. Transparency builds trust. I like the double T, transparency and trust. I think transparency and trust, they go together. Because if you have trust, you kind of are building some transparency in there because you're disclosing. But stick with that word for a minute and talk about the transparency. And transparency can be taken several different ways, because just because you're transparent doesn't mean that somebody's going to be agreeing with your transparency.
Or that's true.
Double-edged sword sometimes.
Yes, but normally when you are transparent with people, that means you're giving them sort of the information that they need to hear, maybe not the information that they want to hear. And that should go a long way to the outcomes that you believe in. I think that, when we've been transparent and we keep trying to be transparent, and we always try to be more transparent. And, I don't think there's anyone who say that, well, they have transparency 100% figured out, but, we try to do more. Even with our economic development, that was one of the things that we were trying to be more transparent on, so that people would see and get excited about what's coming, so they would know the things that we knew, and then we would update them in a way that would give them status check-ins on what we were doing. We just want people to know what we know when we know it, so that they can make the best decisions and feel the best about their government. No one wants to think that, well, they're doing things that we don't know about, or they don't want us to know. I've never been in a place like the state of Florida that prides itself on transparency. And if you don't want to be transparent, you shouldn't be here. But being here means that you have to have the highest level of transparency that the public should be entitled to.
I noticed something when we were going through the rebranding and the logo and different things like that. People said they're not being transparent. Well, that project went on for 2 years. So I think transparency works two ways. I think when you're a citizen on the outside, you need to do your research. The transparency of your research should be part of that, and that would include meeting with your local officials, having the conversation, and trying to figure out how to best engage with. I think that's the biggest problem we have. In my estimation, we have a huge working class, and for them to try to figure out how to engage. Well, you guys are doing that with these town halls. That is, like, fundamentally, that is the easiest way to come to a meeting, understand what's happening, and get some really raw answers straight from, even on like a presentation like this virtual town hall meeting that we're holding with you right now. These are opportunities for people to ask the questions. Statements are good. I'd love to have a question from Chuck on something we're not transparent about. Instead of just saying transparency is trust, builds trust. I agree with him, but if we're not transparent, tell us where we're not so we can fix it. So I'm solution driven. I think you are too, aren't you?
Yeah, I you know what? I didn't even look at that as we need to be more transparent to be trust kind of comment, because I don't know how much more transparent I can be. I don't know what someone would want me to do that I'm not doing now. But
and maybe Chuck meant it that way.
Yeah, I don't, I just know that we do, and we give as much information as possible that we can, so that people can have an understanding of what we do and why we do it. But there's always going to be something, and there's always ways for people to get engaged and involved, like you said, whether it's this meeting, the town hall meeting, joining an advisory club, emailing us, sending us replies back to our social media posts. We try to be responsive, and we try to make sure we put the information out there for people who need it. So yeah.
Talk a little bit about your filming with Madison now on different topics throughout. I love it. I think it's fantastic because it just gives another communication with transparency and trust, and it's a cool snippet for people to be able to engage real quick, get educated, and move on.
Well, I want to put a GoPro on me and just walk around every day so people could see a day in the life and start my own little TV show. But Jason Bartolone won't let me. But there's so much that goes into those where we just try to give people a little snippet of, just reality and some, humanism of what we do and why we do it, and not just sort of let them be able to read and see and take things to their own context. We try to frame it in a way, and Madison is great with her questions about what we're doing and why we're doing it. But ultimately we want to expose ourselves more and to the public as just people. I mean, like you said, you and I talk like we've known each other forever, and we've known each other for 4 years. It just comes with communication. It just comes with being able to talk through sometimes tough situations. But if you're committed to it and you're committed to the outcome, it all works out. But we love it. Anything we can do to pull the curtain back, we're happy to do so.
Well, and I'll give his comment. So I like the way you frame a question or the answer to fit your line of discussion.
Thank you.
I guess. Thanks, Chuck. This is a real discussion. I guess but anyway, we've got the new fire department. We've got the hospital. We've got and I shouldn't say new fire department, the rebuild of our fire department.
Yes.
And let's stay there for a second, because every time I go past, I miss the building, but I can't wait for the new one to get here.
Yes, it is very exciting. You'll be happy to know that Chief Titus has taken all of his memorabilia from that fire station and brought it to City Hall. So there's a mini Fire Station 81 over here on the second floor. But the man has collected a lot of things over the years, and it's very impressive. We should sell tickets to people coming there to see it. His office now, it's amazing. But the building itself was just an old building, and now is the time to sort of get it moving in. With the EOC coming in right behind it, is such a 1-2 punch of a new station and a new building that we can stand up and be proud of during hurricane season for the EOC and our normal day-to-day for our fire station. I think that our fire staff, just like I believe our police staff, need the best facilities to work out of, because they are doing the most important work of the city, which they're in charge of saving lives. And I know that in our world today, we forget it, but the human life is the most precious thing that we have out there, and we cannot ever lose sight of that. And so giving them what they need so that they could do so is great. The fire station is going to be awesome. I think we got a great team that's building it, good project managers. Look forward to it sort of just coming up and being stood up on our campus.
So this is a good point. Robin Sanfrecite said, please address the question on how we can accomplish this. And I think she is referring to the police department. I believe she didn't kind of highlight which topic, but I think that's where we're at. It just popped up.
Okay. So in my mind, if that's what we're talking about, the police department, the need for the police headquarters is not going away. It's only going to cost more when we decide to build it, but we still need to do it. Now, how we get there, I think, is where the city comes into the equation. Before we went out and asked, for the entire amount or whatever the amount was that we wanted to borrow for it, I think that we need to figure out a way to show the citizens that we understand that asking them to pay for it all through a millage increase is not the right way to go. We can put money to the side as our city grows and our revenue continues to come into the city to show that we have a vested interest in it without asking them for all of it. But that's the only way I think it's going to happen. If we come to the table and we don't have anything in the bank to show for it, in whatever form that looks like, I think it's going to fail, because the police headquarters is going to be an expensive, large-scale project. And there are different ways to put money to the side. Even if that means cutting your regular budget and keeping some of that to the side each year until you get this little nest egg up and then to get it started. But I think that sort of fiscal responsibility will show the citizens that we did our best in order to get there without asking them for all of it.
Well, and so she did correct me because she had an earlier paragraph up above. We were talking about voters. And how can we encourage more citizens to get out and vote? How can we get that turnout to be larger each and every time? I think everybody struggles with that, and I don't care what city you're from, but
Right.
I love the question. I love the support of that. I am a big supporter of do your due diligence and vote. If you don't learn how to vote, go pull the lever once and then figure out. It's kind of scary to go into it blind, but
Right.
we need people to vote. And it does. I know that it makes a difference in Tallahassee if our citizens actually voted at a higher clip. We do get noticed different.
Right.
And
Agreed.
I don't know that they know that.
Well, I think that you mean the citizens don't know that.
The citizens,
Yes.
I don't believe that the citizens understand, and I may be wrong, but I'm just going to
Right.
say it because I don't think they know the power of the vote just isn't to vote. It's to actually show Tallahassee we have a base of people here that pay attention to their dollar.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. What I would say is people vote when there is something important to them that they want to reflect their opinion on. I think we have to do a better job of talking about the issues that are important to everyone to get better participation. If I'm a voter and I think that, well, I don't care about any of the items that the candidates stand for or any of the items on a referendum and what their impact is, I'm not going to vote. Why do I vote? I don't care. We have to sort of penetrate through that first layer of need and get to what they care about. And then what you do is you have different groups of people who care about those particular projects or those particular agenda items, and they've got to get out and go sort of spread and make sure that they share their voice with other people outside of their usual circles. Your usual circle normally is going to think like you think. If you're voting, your usual circle is probably voting with you as well because they're already included in that circle. Step outside of that and then come back and say, hey, then if you want to actually go and make an impact, this is how you do it. Because sitting back and complaining about something that's important to you, you need to go out and vote on that same important issue. That's how I think we can get some more people out. And then Tallahassee, like you said, sees the volume of our city. We're 100,000 people, down here in Southwest Florida. I think people are recognizing the strength of the city of Northport. And as long as we use that strength in the right way, I think our ability and our reputation and credibility only grows from there.
So I'm going to ask a question on governments and the viewpoint of how we're perceived today compared to 4.5 years ago when you got here.
You want me to answer that?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Because
So
it's been 4.5 years, and I know what I felt like when I first moved here, and I know
right.
we've had a major shift. Okay, and a lot of people don't like it, but we're destined to be even larger than this. We're destined to be 250,000. So,
Right.
if not more,
So
it's kind of scary. But your perception matters because you're in the management spot, Mr. Manager. How does your team look today, 4.5 years after you being part of the leadership of the city, to the upward momentum like Tallahassee's of the world?
So you might remember when I got here in October of 2021, you all were looking for Brian Laundrie. That was happening when I came in the door. You were also dealing with a city manager who had been removed in one way or the other based on his activities in the building. That was not good either. You also had a de-annexation that was probably just getting ramped up at the time. I think it had been in place for maybe like a year of people who did not want to be in your city as well. So 4.5 years ago, all of those things were happening very, very strong. And I think that put a lot of pressure on a lot of people. And I think that we lost a lot of staff, based on those things happening. But the goal was to replace them with people who could still step in and do the job and, accept the realities of what they were facing. So you had to sort of get the base of the pyramid formed. And I thought that was a very good challenge. I thought that it was exciting to come in and sort of hopefully use some things and skills and techniques that I had learned in order to make this city better and move it forward as opposed to backwards. And I think we've done a lot of that. I'm proud of the work that we've done, and I think that when I look around and the legacy that our staff will leave, I think it's going to be very strong. But every city has its challenges, and when you have someone coming in who's new, you don't trust them, and I get that. John can write a book about Jerome's trust issues. I'll be the first person to say that I have probably more trust issues than most people. But when I let it down, things happen, and that's a different story. But my point is, hopefully we have earned the trust now of the community to say, okay, it's no longer about, do I trust them as much as I should? It's, how do I communicate, and let's work together to solve problems together. Because as far as being transparent and inclusive and communicating and visible and vocal and, all those things, accessible, all those things that we do, it's going to be pretty hard to do more than what we've done, except to do what we have done better than we've done it.
Well, and Chuck English brings up another good point. We've got a real issue that may be heading this direction with the elimination of property taxes through Tallahassee. I don't know what the answer is, and I don't know that you have that answer yet.
Of course I have an answer.
What's it say again?
Of course I have an answer. I know the answer to the question.
All
right. Well, first of all, Tallahassee wouldn't eliminate it. It would go to the voters, and the voters would vote to eliminate it. But the plan in Tallahassee, if it gets eliminated, is you local government go figure it out. That is their plan. Our plan would be to do what we always do in times like this. We would adapt. Your local government will adapt in how it does business in order to make sure that we provide services to the level of satisfaction and keep the city going at the same time. It will not be easy. We are preparing budget scenarios right now this year that not only keep us flat, but keep us at a reduced rate as well for some other things that we need to do in this year. So we're always planning ahead. When we went up to Tallahassee for the legislative action days a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago now, there is no plan. Let's be clear, whether you're talking about raising sales tax and doing some other things, but it would be a situation where Tallahassee would push it forward and allow it to go to a vote, and they would be the good guys, and then the local government is going to be the bad guys. And I'm like, we will not be the ones that have to say that we're going to cut our quality of service or our level of service or raise fines and fees in order to make up for that. We have to find that right balance of making sure that we maximize the services that we provide while also keeping an eye on what our taxpayers are being asked to pay for.
And Chuck says, adapt and overcome. That is pretty accurate. I kind of laughed at your answer because I wasn't trying to give you any cover. I was basically going to say Tallahassee probably doesn't have a plan.
I kept saying they didn't have a plan. They do have a plan. Their plan is you go figure it out, local government. That is their plan, and I am dead serious. You talk to any of them up there, their plan is you will figure it out. And that's probably because local government has figured out things before, and this would be no different. But in all seriousness, we are looking at when you start cutting what we're cutting now, because we need to show the citizens of Northport that we are fiscally responsible. We are talking about people. That means people at certain levels. And we are very aware of that, because I think that being unemployed in this day and age is not a good place to be.
Will you be holding, and this is from Robin again, will you be holding any citizen budget meetings in order for a complete understanding when that happens?
Just in general.
Well, this is in regards to the property taxes through Tallahassee eliminated.
I think if that passes through the voters and the voters say that's what they want, I think we'll have to have some extensive conversations with the community, so that interactive conversations with the community, so that they can weigh into how we are dealing with that challenge. For this year's budget, we're having a similar cycle like we did last year. We'll have a unified meeting over at the Morgan Center with all of our departments there and set up and ask for questions and answers and food like we did last year. But if that passes through our referendum through the people, we will have to talk about how we will adjust, and whether it's a phase-in approach or all-in approach, things will have to look differently.
Talk about the consequence of a vote or the consequence of a no vote.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is a crazy undertaking from the at the state level, and we just talked about the importance of being involved with your local government. Why isn't now, or why is now the right time for you to get involved in your local government so you understand what's coming your way from above? I think that is the major thing. If you're not involved, and you're kind of Ron DeSantis is telling everybody, here's what I'm talking about. There's a consequence to everything.
There's a consequence to it. And, when it was first announced that this was being considered, I was like, well, oh my gosh, everyone's going to vote for it and we're going to be in trouble. But, I think as time has sort of gone on, I think there's been some pros and cons that sort of been, shared, universally about, what this would mean to your local government. But at the end of the day, if it gets on there and is voted for, we still have to provide services to the level that people can live with. You don't want to put yourself in a position where people are wanting to leave your city in mass amounts, because the future of our city is built on people being here. We are at that position in our life cycle where if we don't get the people here that we were counting on, our PFM report from our financial advisors is not going to be any good. And then we won't be able to do the things that we need to do to sustain ourselves as a city. So adapt and overcome is going to be there. People who are not voting or have not voted or have not found the right issue to vote on, this is about as important as it's going to get for people to get out of their chair to go vote.
So I'm going to stick with financial stewardship for a second, because we're kind of hitting that topic kind of hard. How do you feel our financial stewardship has been handled post hurricane events in replenishing different things like that? Our grant writers, I think that those all play hand in glove when you're talking financial stewardship. Can you talk a little bit about the analysis that you guys put in to the budget and how carefully you construct things and go about that?
Yeah. So we talk about, the financial stewardship as it relates to, hurricanes and recovery and grants. First of all, our grant manager, Val Malinowski, does a great job with her team of making sure, one, that we have all the FEMA information in line, because it does take a while to get back. But if you don't do the right audit and compliance work in the front side, you're never going to get the money on the back side. And we hope that FEMA is still there to support us the next time that we need it. But our grant writing and our grant team are always proactive and out there seeking grants that will help bring in funds that we don't have. Let's be clear. We are always trying to knock on doors, and we have a great relationship with our elected officials in Tallahassee that support us, whether it's Bruder's, Buchanan, or Stubbe. They all Nix. They all have a way of making sure that they support the city of Northport. Second, so our road and drainage division, they bore a lot of the brunt of the financial burden from Ian. When you think about what we really had to recover from in the year of 2023, which was over $50 million. And then we had to get that money right back in the next 2 or 3 years, which we did so. The issue becomes, as we look at our financial stewardship to recover, since we can't borrow, if we have a storm this August, and knowing that storm season goes all the way through November, we may have to slow down our recovery of how we react to that first storm, knowing that if we had 2 storms, we would not be able to recover because that's just too much money and we wouldn't have the ability to borrow. And that changes our citizen experience. And that's not what we wanted. And that's why we tried to get it passed in years past to be able to borrow. But if that happens, we would go to the governor, we would go to other people. I would go to knock on any door that I needed to in order to get this city funding so that it can move forward. There's no need in wondering and what if and what could have been. It is what it is. So we need to make sure that we adjust accordingly, make sure that we stay on top of our financial resources, keep our reserves strong as they could be, and we'll go from there.
So we got about 5 minutes left, and if anybody's got any questions, feel free to post them. We'll try to get to them. But with 5 minutes left, you've got a big event tonight. I want you to talk about that and kind of highlight the importance of people coming to that event and engaging, and kind of give that quick overview for this evening.
So this evening is what is going to be the first of 4 meetings like this year. We're going to do them quarterly. And these meetings are designed to show the community that we heard you. Through our surveying and through the feedback that we've gotten, you have said these are the topics that are most important to you. And as we talk about those topics, I think I may have already said what they're going to be about, but the first one is trust, transparency, and government accountability. We're going to talk about, again, how decisions are made, how we are responsible to you as citizens, how we serve all of you as citizens. And we don't want to make sure that we think that, well, I only serve one particular interest group. That's not good governance. We want to make sure that everyone has a chance to be heard in this model. The second one is environmental resiliency and flooding. We know that as we talked about hurricane season earlier, what are we doing to make sure that flooding is minimized? What are we doing to make sure that we care about our environment as we continue to grow and have progress as a city? Because it's important, but you have to do it the right way. Quarter 3 would be traffic safety and infrastructure. The more people that come here, the more we wear down our infrastructure. And how are we going to replace that infrastructure? We have a lot of over 200 unfunded CIP projects. We talked about the $2.5 billion that it represents. We've got to make sure that we stay on top of that need in our city. It's not going to go away. It's only going to get, more of a need. And then the last one would be on growth, development, and identity, talking about who we want to be, how we want to be, and how do we get there. I think that there is a lot of still optimism in this city. We want to keep people excited about this city. We want people to think that, we care about the entire city, not just the east or the west, but the north, the south, and the central as well. I just think that we want people to come out and be engaged. We think that we have a very good story to tell as it relates to how we can work best together as a community through some challenging times. I think the challenging times are only going to increase over the next few months and years. So we should be in this together as we sort of work through some of the different viewpoints to get to the same outcomes.
Absolutely. And then there was one last question, Robin. Do you think that there is a way to increase our environmental fund in order to achieve more balance?
Increase our environmental fund to achieve more balance. I think our environmental fund right now is quite healthy. I'm not sure the balance that she's referring to, but now.
Let me ask you something different though. Do you think we're balanced now?
As far as
the environmental to growth balance, I think that, we've got Wormhole Springs, we've got other things that we both know Robin's viewpoint from the environmental side, which is even with Alice White, who is for trees, that balance of trees and growth and how we're dealing with that from our environmental department side of things too.
I would say I wouldn't feel that we're balanced. I would say I feel like we're balancing. Like we're doing what needs to be done, but we need to do it over a longer period of time. The Natural Resource Division was created and the fund funds their staffing and their equipment needs out of that, but it also replaces trees and other natural environment needs for the city as well. We brought the Natural Resource Division in on the decision-making part of the permitting process and included them in how we move forward on particular properties, whether it's private or business. I think that this city has never had the amount of attention that's been paid to balancing what's happening with growth and the environment. I think that we're headed in the right direction. Could we do more and do better? Always, absolutely. But I think you have the right people in the right seats that are committed to making sure that it's done correctly over the long term.
Well, we've come a long way in that because before you got here, we didn't have the environmental department either.
Right. Yeah.
So I agree with her on the aspect of the balancing side of it, but I agree with your answer because I don't know that a city in growth is ever done with the balancing act, even after it's built.
Correct. Not that I'm aware of, but but again, we heard the people when we got here that they were concerned that we were turning Northport into another, Sarasota City, which, Northport will never be, that sort of concrete jungle that, people are afraid of. What we want to do is build and make sure that one, we have enough businesses so that they can thrive here in the city of Northport. We have 100,000 people. That's 100 different opinions and different needs. And, you're building hospitals, you need workforce housing, you need places for them to live, work, and play in this city. We're just always trying to keep the city moving forward. And with that comes a responsibility. And that responsibility means the environment has to be protected.
I went shopping with a commercial buyer, and we were evaluating properties. And I love trees, but trees have a distinct problem for a lot of business types because you count on signage and frontage to bring awareness to your property that you're going to be either owning or renting.
Right.
And I have to kind of support back to the city's viewpoint. A lot of times I love the trees. I would have this property we looked at, I would have manipulated trees a little different. I would have kept the same amount of trees. I just would have placed them differently so
Right.
that they would have been been effective, but at the same time, not block the store frontages from ever being seen from the street.
Right.
Because you there, I like the environmental balance, but I think you have to have a good business balance too. And so I know we've had this conversation, so it's kind of fun for me because I'm blessed with both sides of the challenge of supporting trees and not wanting them in front of the importance of what needs to come to the citizens, which is awareness of different businesses that are out there. So there has to be a really cool balance between the environmental side and the business side. And I don't know that another city looks at it as hard as what we are right now, because I need to do a little more research, and maybe you guys know this at City Hall, and maybe you can highlight it. But how many cities have an environmental department like ours?
I definitely don't know the answer to that question.
I think it's a great.
I'm just glad that we have one, but it's part art, part science, partly more art, in my opinion, than science. But there's the blending there of the two worlds where they can coexist in a way that allows everyone to understand that both can be important. If we didn't care about the environment and we were just knocking down everything and telling you we didn't care, don't worry about it, or we just wanted the money from it, but this city has a culture and a landscape and a character to it that you don't ever want to lose, even as you grow. And you may look and want to say, well, there used to be a lot of trees on this corner over here. Now it's gone. Well, there are still corners where they still exist. You just need to make sure that you understand that they still exist and that we are not just going through everything and leveling everything for the sake of it.
Well, I for one appreciate your time today, and thank you for coming on. I know that you're going to do this with us once a quarter, but I hope you enjoyed yourself.
My pleasure. Always.
And then I look forward to more. Thank the team for scheduling this out. I appreciate them and what you guys are doing as a team together. And have a great, safe week and weekend. And let's have a great 2026.
That's right. Amazing.
Yes, I'm so thankful. But thanks so much for being part of the live streaming, and I can't wait for other things to happen, and they will be soon. So we'll talk to you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Join us again on Monday. I will not be doing a live stream this Friday. I've got a family member who is requiring some extra care. Just throw some love and prayers out there for any of your family members going through the same thing, and know that we're all dealing with different things. So thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next Monday. Bye-bye now.